Hello to everyone. Now I am going to talk about eco-psychology in literature. Before going into the topic, let us listen and enjoy the music and the scenery of nature. How do you feel now? Can you feel some calmness in your mind? Yes, exactly. Nature heals our stress, our psyches, and tensions. This is called eco-psychology. Now, let's see about ecology in literature. The ecological imagination in literary texts often includes a concern for the environment in general, a concern for specific life forms, animals or plants, and for their rights, a concern for the interconnected nature of all life forms and the ecosystems. The ecopsychology approach in literary study can be reached through three strategies, which are: this approach is used to examine authors' creative process, and it is contained literary works such as novels, short stories, poems, dramas that display the character interacting with environment, reading receptions of literary works related to ecopsychology. Now, let's see about the background influences to ecopsychology. The first one is environmental movement, the second one deep ecology, the third one native wisdom traditions, fourth one feminist spirituality, fifth one ecofeminism, and sixth one is Gaia theory and biophilia. Now let's see about the definition of ecopsychology. Ecopsychology is a new way of approaching nature. It studies the relationship between human beings and the natural world through ecological and psychological principles. It seeks to heal one's psyche. The term ecopsychology is publicly articulated by social historian Theodore Roszak. He is credited with coining the term ecopsychology in his book called The Voice of the Earth in 1992. As a term, it considers the connection between oneself and nature. Ecopsychology arose out of the realization that the ecology and environmental needed the input of psychology in order to make sense of humanity's relationship movements with the environment. Psychology also needed to recognize that humanity's psychological health was absolutely linked with what was going on in the environment. It recognizes the healing of oneself and the healing of the world are interrelated and it cannot be separated. It is also known as psychoecology, ecotherapy, green therapy, earth-centered therapy, and re-earthing. It is an area dedicated to an examination of the emotional bonds that exist between humans and the natural world. The presence of non-human in literature is often an inherent part of the text. Ecopsychology is a newly emerging literary perspective with nature. Humanity-nature relationship is reflected in literary works as its main research focal point. Ecopsychology forms a bridge between human psyche and nature. Yes, nature heals our stress. It heals the scars of our psyche. Role of nature in literature. The natural world has always been an important subject for poets and prose writers. In the works of art, nature generally functions as background of place and time and also theme. But as what has been mentioned earlier that poem as an artifact of culture, product of society, is also influenced by its social system. Now we go into eco-criticism in literature. Eco-criticism is nothing but relationship between nature and literature. Eco-criticism in nature is in the center and not the man. It is an earth-centered approach to the literary study. Ecologists think that man is the only disturbance in the universe. Eco-criticism is very important in literature, as well as eco-psychology is a part of eco-criticism, in which the healing of the self and the healing of the planet go together. This view is clearly in many novels. The best example of eco-psychological novel is Surfacing. Now let's see about eco-psychological perspective in novel called Surfacing, written by Margaret Atwood. The protagonist is unnamed and the other characters are Anna, David, Joe, and Medom. In the early 1970s, Canadian cultural nationalism positioned wilderness as mark of difference as well as an object of ecological faith. The presence of non-human in literature is often an inherent part of the text. Being an environmentalist, Margaret Atwood shows a deep concern on the endangered environment and human-nature relationship. Most of her novels deal with environmental issues such as ecofeminism, ecological survival, and eco-criticism. Atwood, with a keen ecological consciousness, shows the ecological thought in the novel surfacing. She connects her protagonist's psyche with nature and shows nature as a healing mother. The novel, from the perspective of ecopsychology, probing the profound ecological implications which reflect the human nature relationship. The impact of ecopsychology is seen implicit in the novel by the protagonist return to the natural world. The nameless protagonist in the novel returns to the undeveloped island called Northern Quebec, where she grew up, to search for her missing father. The story follows the protagonist's search for father, which serves as a pretext for her search for inner self, which is absorbed through her gradual submersion into nature. Her harmony with nature makes her a new and a complete human. The protagonist realizes the gap between her natural self and her artificial construct only when she encounters nature. Her association with nature raises her consciousness. Like a true ecologist, she makes the earth her literal home, for she knows that in the natural world, all life is interrelated, teamed with diversity and complexity. She finds a reflection of her own tragedy in the Quebec landscape. She expresses a deep concern for nature and helps the readers to understand the human nature relationship. The narrator feels herself hurt by whatever harms she sees in the environment, including animals and plants. She seeks her liberation through a regression to primitive life, which involves total immersion in the environment to the extent of living like a wild animal. She undergoes an extensive change in perception and as a result learns to embrace the natural world and healing herself in the process. Atwood has made an attempt to create an emphatic relationship between the wounded self of the unnamed protagonist and the damaged landscape of the island near the border country in Quebec. Her journey has made her to see into the life of things, and in the process, she gets away from all her friends as well as the American Canadians who indulge in senseless cruelty to birds, trees, and fishes. She realizes through Billatly that no human can help her in discovering her real self, and therefore she returns to nature. Ironically enough, it is only when she identifies herself with the damaged landscape that she discovers herself. So it is true that in nature or through nature we can discover ourselves. She becomes part of the landscape, but prior to this, she discards her marriage ring, her name, her deeming identity. In the healing process, the narrator begins to compare herself with the dead heron. She asserts that human beings are not radically separate from nature, that the fulfillment of our humanity is profoundly linked with learning to appreciate the nature within us and without. When she links her own life with those of the other beings of nature, she is able to perceive the rhythm of nature, its cycle of life and death. She becomes to feel that in order to be one with nature, she has to shed her clothes to become like animals. She survives on mushrooms, plants, berries. She merges with the forest, descending even further to the level of plants. After linking her life with the natural things, she feels that her life has been totally changed. She finally articulates, "My body changes." She survives on mushrooms, plants, and berries. She merges with the forest, descending even further to the level of plants. After linking her life with natural things, she feels that her life has been totally changed, and she finally asserts that my body also changes. The creature in me, sense of filaments in me, I ferry it secure between death and life. I multiply. The novel provides readers to the protagonist that one must become a part of nature to understand and accept herself. After a near-drowning experience, she allows herself to remember the past which she has buried deep within her subconscious. She essentially becomes one with clothing completely so that she can truly be a part of nature. Towards the end, she realizes that she cannot turn from society but can be cautious. She has been recovering the part of herself she had lost because she is cured by the Mother Nature, which is the core of ecopsychology. Finally, she is healed and ready to live in the society. She seems prepared to return to the city with a new courage, which she has got from nature, and is prepared to challenges of life. She emerges as a brave woman who is capable of establishing her identity. The novel's surfacing clearly depicts that the humans are a part of the nature. It heals the human, mental and physical illness, which is closely connected to the health of environment. Thank you. Affected by the modern world and thus forgetting nature. Let's see that nature is not only for the indigenous people but for the modern people. And let's go into the importance of ecopsychology in our lives.
The following is a TBS original.
Then, Indians revere it. Poets thrive on it. How can you ignore it?
The first thing that always hits me is the air, that the air is so clean.
Join Peggy Knapp as she reconnects with nature. It's therapy, and might just save your sanity.
If you break that bond, if you strain it, if you forget it's there, you become crazy.
Later, and in the real, a familiar face leads a new revolution with some help from his friends. All this as you connect with Network Earth.
Hi, welcome back. Life in the 90s can be pretty overwhelming. Where do you fit in? How do you have an effect on something as huge and global as the greenhouse effect or overpopulation? Well, some folks say that nature itself can help ease your mind. It's a notion that's as old as the hills, and some experts say the hills are a good place to start. History, poets have pondered the relationship between humans and nature.
In wilderness is the preservation of the world.
We do not receive wisdom. We must discover it for ourselves after a journey through the wilderness.
Indigenous peoples have lived in kinship with the earth for generations, according to Little Bear, spokesperson for the Esselen tribe of California.
Western society has cut itself off from the earth through these houses, through cement.
The frog does not drink up the pond in which he lives.
That's where we're getting dysfunctional behavior. We're getting alcoholism, addiction, because there's no connection.
The environmental movement has given voice to that disconnection. They frightened us with dire predictions and scolded us for our wicked waste. Author Theodore Roszak is one of many who believe the time is right for a new kind of environmental psychology.
My hope is that what we're on the brink of is developing a new profession called ecopsychology that will be able to make a contribution both to the psychologists and the ecologists, that it will work in both directions. and that in the generation to come, it will be unthinkable to talk about mental health or sanity without including relationship to the natural environment.
But why pay a psychologist when a walk in the woods is free? According to Steve Harper, we're relearning how to experience the natural world. He leads wilderness programs for the Esalen Institute of Big Sur, California.
What I feel like I do is a study of nature. And my path, so to speak, is one of how do I learn? How do we learn from wild nature? It means more than listening with the ears. It means listening with my whole being. And then maybe I even begin to listen with a bigger sense of self. I begin to listen with my trees. I begin to listen with my streams, my sky.
The deepest words of the wise men teach us the same as the whistle of the wind when it blows, or the sound of the water when it is flowing.
The air is so clean.
Fran Siegel, a practicing ecopsychologist, has watched her clients struggle because of that lack of connection in their lives.
People feel that they're working all the time, or else they're unimportant, not working, but that, what is the work for?
Fran, like many in her field, borrows meditation techniques from different cultures to help bring the peacefulness of a walk in the woods back home.
I use just a few exercises to warm up, to let us start actually feeling nature through our skin and feeling the energy.
It's hard not to feel a little self-conscious at first.
Yeah, there is an overcoming of that self-consciousness or feeling like this is silly, or I don't want to be seen doing this. Of course, we're doing it on TV.
Right.
But
there's a big guy with a big camera right there watching us.
right, but how does it feel?
Feels great. Berkeley psychologist Ilan Shapiro finds ways to help city dwellers connect.
People who live in poorer neighborhoods need the earth just as much, but they have more polluted environments. They have more cigarette advertisements going on in their neighborhoods. They have more toxic wastes that are being dumped in their neighborhoods. But they need the earth just as much, and they're waking up to it too.
Ilan is part of a neighborhood project to restore Strawberry Creek, a small waterway that runs through Berkeley.
When we bring the creek above ground, it's a way of reclaiming the hidden parts of ourselves that have been covered over, that are more fluid, that do meander through life, that do trust life.
Trees and stones seem more like me each day.
Taking time out to walk in the park might seem like pure luxury to many people. Ilan insists it's not. Is this really necessary, or is this more sort of elitist, self-indulgent woo-woo from Northern California? No, is it necessary?
Well, I think not only is it necessary, but everyone does it in their own way. And it's only the process of getting to see how much we need it that'll help us to do it more and to do it more consciously so that we can make the most of it.
A new psychology that echoes the words of the poet Alan Watts. You didn't come into this world. You came out of it like a wave from the ocean. You are not a stranger here.
Yes, we are not stranger in this world. Nature heals us, and exactly it is our mother. According to biologist Evo Wilson says, human beings have an innate instinct to connect emotionally with nature, but the modern techniques make humans to avoid nature. To become one among the nature is noteworthy, and it gives peace to one's heart and mind. Nature, by its nature, is therapeutic. Humans are healed by nature in the times of troubles and distress. Humans are a part of the nature, and we cannot be separated from nature. nature heals the mental and physical illness of human beings, and thereby it is our moral responsibility to protect nature. Connecting with nature in a conscious and experiential way will enable the mind and soul to experience the therapeutic effect of nature. Nature is whole and complete in itself. It is creative and restorative for many people. Time spent in nature helps them to feel the divinity. It teaches that humans are not alone and cannot survive without it. I want to conclude with the words of John Seed. He once said, I try to remember it is not me trying to protect the rainforest. Rather, I am part of the rainforest protecting itself. I am that part of the rainforest recently emerged into human thinking. Humans should embrace the Mother Earth to live a harmonious life. And exactly in this today's condition, he must embrace and he must love nature. Thus, it is essential to kindle the ecological consciousness in us, to generate the feelings and emotions, to promote a more ecological lifestyle by living a harmonious life with nature. So, the time of eco-psychology is now. The time for love for nature is now. Let's save the world and save the humankind. Thank you.